In a dark alley in Meyerfield, there was a half-elf bard in a dark red cloak holding a red crystal rapier up to the throat of a brown-haired human in nice clothes. Look, I wasn't there, I don't know anything about Frilimir's tavern. They just hired me to take things from Amberwood to Meyerfield. That's it. They don't tell me anything. If you want to talk to my boss, he'll know more than me. He's a dwarf named Ragnus. He's usually at the Red Water Inn. That's all I know, I promise. And so the bard let the man live and began to travel towards Amberwood. Now let's jump to a few days later, where the party was at the Red Water Inn. A crossbow bolt had just been fired through the window and had instantly killed a dwarf that had been sitting in the corner of the tavern. Tenebris immediately ran over to try to help the dwarf, but it was a fruitless endeavor because he was already long past dead. However, Tenebris did learn that the bolt had been poisoned, and with a semi-expensive poison too, meaning that this wasn't just a random act of violence, but instead a planned assassination. Meanwhile, through the window, Jay saw a gnome in a dark blue cloak with a crossbow fleeing the scene, and he tried to chase after her, but she was able to escape through some alleys. After a few more moments, some guards showed up and got stories from everyone there, and after telling their stories, the party went up to their rooms and got some well-deserved rest. The next morning, the party met back up in the dining area of the tavern. I would like 1 ticket to breakfast, please. What do you want? We've got eggs, bacon, sausage, but it looks like we're out of toast. Someone must have stolen it again. As the party was eating their breakfast, they talked to the bartender about where they'd be able to buy a map of the island, and learned about Zorich's Mapping Company, a small business located on Merchant Lane. They thanked the bartender for the food and information, and immediately went over to the store. The cost for a new map was around 1,000 gold pieces, which was far beyond what the party had. However, they were only about 50 silver short of being able to buy a second-hand map from him. So the party left the store, planning to return when they got more money. The party began walking down the street to go check back in on Blinsky and see his store, when they found a poster advertising a massive gladiator fight that was going to be happening tonight at the arena in the center of Amberwood. Alright everyone, I've got an idea. What if we gambled some of our money on the duel? I bet we could get enough to buy the map. Some of our money? How about all of our money? We've got to go all in on this. What could possibly go wrong? And so the party traveled towards the incredibly crowded stadium at the center of the city, ready to put all of their money on the line. However, instead of betting all of their money on one person, each member of the party put their money on 2 different competitors, then went up to the stands to watch the duel. And after a few minutes of waiting, they heard the announcer's voice echo throughout the stadium, coming out of a series of runestone speakers set up into the stands all around them. Bets are now closed. Please activate any vision scrolls now because the duel will be beginning in mere moments. But first, Carmine's Caramel Sausages is having a 10% discount for the rest of the week. So if you're hankering for a caramel sausage, go to Carmine's. Now without further ado, here is the first fighter here tonight, Drusk the Hunter. A human in a dark cloak walked into the arena, fired 3 bolts up into the sky, then slowly placed 3 apples on the ground. After a few seconds, the bolts fell back down and each apple was stabbed into the ground by a bolt. This was who Tenebris and Edith had bet all of their money on. Next up we have Sarthan the Hungry. A lizard folk holding a serrated longsword walked into the arena, looked around, and spit a still bleeding human foot onto the floor in front of him. He was by far the crowd's favorite, and Gang tried to boo him, but the rest of the crowd's cheering drowned him out. None of the party had put any money on Sarthan. Next up, we've got Durbag the Brute. A beefy orc entered the arena and drew 2 hand axes from his belt that were still dripping with blood. This was who Gang had bet his money on. Our next contestant for today is Ardak the Slayer. A goblin in light armor rolled into the arena and howled like a wolf as he readied his short sword. This was who Jay had put his money on. And lastly, we have Sylvester. A human in a suit and a top hat walked into the arena with a cane in his hand, and no visible weapon. None of the party had put any money onto Sylvester. Once again, I'd like to quickly go over the rules. This duel will be to the death, with the last surviving fighter taking all of the prize money. After the duel, all dead contestants will be brought back by the clerics we have on staff. And without further ado, let the duel begin! Ardak immediately sprinted towards Sarthan and dived towards him with his short sword at the ready. Sarthan easily dodged the strike, then cut off Ardak's legs with one swing of his blade, and with the second attack he cut off Ardak's head. Meanwhile, Drusk moved towards Durbag while firing bolts from his crossbow. Durbag was able to parry some of the bolts with his hand axes, and then took a risk and threw one of his axes at Drusk. It hit him in the shoulder, but now that Durbag only had one axe, Drusk was able to quickly take him down. Shooting a bolt into each of Durbag's eyes, then one into his heart for good measure. During all of this, Sylvester had just been watching the rest of the fight from the sideline, not making any moves yet. Drusk looked over at Sarthan, and they both nodded at each other, and moved in to kill Sylvester together. Drusk fired 4 bolts right after each other at Sylvester, while Sarthan ran in with a wild sword swing. Sylvester drew a sword out of his cane and sliced all 4 bolts in half with one perfect motion, and then promptly had his leg cut off by Sarthan's attack. Drusk tried to take advantage of the distraction to fire another shot at Sylvester, but his crossbow broke during the shot. Sylvester was able to parry Sarthan's next attack, then stabbed him through the throat. The entire crowd except for Gang began to boo as Sarthan died, and it was now just Drusk and Sylvester. While Sylvester was wiping off his blade on Sarthan's corpse, Drusk drew daggers and ran towards Sylvester, plunging a dagger into his back. Sylvester spun around and tried to block a second attack, but Drusk stabbed a dagger up through Sylvester's ribcage into his lungs. What a crazy fight we had here today, folks, and it seems that Drusk the Hunter is the victor. Now I'd like to once again remind everyone that Carmine's Caramel Sausages is having a 10% discount for the rest of the week, so go down there to buy some sausages to celebrate. The bet had paid off for the party because both Tenebris and Edith had won a significant amount of money, and they were going to head over to Zorch's map store, but first they wanted to go check out Blinsky's toys. As they left the fight, they saw hanging on the side of a building next to the arena was a massive advertisement for a restaurant called the Royal Vine that had Drusk on it holding a vine next to the company name. I'm not sure why, but I really want to go to the Royal Vine now. If Drusk likes it, then it must be a great restaurant. I guess we should add that to the list of places we want to check out, but first we need to go to Blinsky's. The party arrived at a cramped shop with a dark entrance. There was a rocking horse sign hanging over the door, and flanking the entrance were 2 lead-framed windows. Through the dirty glass, the party saw a jumbled display of toys on shelves and hanging from the ceiling, all bearing the slogan, "Is no fun, is no Blinsky." They walked through the door and found that the place was still a bit messy because Blinsky hadn't finished unpacking yet. "Friends, you finally arrived! Here, I have a present to thank you for guarding my cart on the way up from Meyerfield." Blinsky handed them a small ventriloquist doll of a vampire count that was extremely detailed, even with small blood trails painted beneath the fangs. As the party was accepting the toy, the door swung open and 10 goblins in suits walked into the store. They were all members of the Wolf Rats, the largest crime syndicate on the island. "Blinsky, I'm glad to see you're back in town, and don't worry, we made sure to protect your store while you were gone. Though, now you owe us 3 months of payments. I expect it by the end of the week, because it'd be a real shame if you didn't have us watching out for the place. Lots of bad things could happen." After a brief discussion, the Wolf Rats left the store and went on their way. "Blinsky, how much do you owe them?" "It's 1,000 silver a month, so I need to pay them 3,000, but there's no way I'll be able to get enough money to pay the Wolf Rats in just 1 week. "I don't like them. We should make them vanish, like a magic trick." "Why are you on the island again, Edith?" "For crimes of religion, mostly." "We are not picking a fight with the Wolf Rats. We'd get slaughtered, which means that we need to find a way to get money for Blinsky to pay them." Then Tenebris came up with a plan. "Blinsky, do you know where I can buy paint and a ladder?" The party got some information and quickly went to the store and bought a few buckets of paint, then traveled to Mardon's Ladder Emporium. So what kind of ladder are you looking for? Something that looks official, but not too official, and it needs to be able to reach at least 2 floors up. Sounds good. You're probably looking for a Taraman 240. Luckily for you, a new shipment of them recently crashed onto the island and I had one of my guys pick it up, so we've got some in stock. The party bought the ladder and then went back towards the arena, except for Edith, who broke off from the party to do her own part of the plan. The party hid in an alley nearby and scouted out the poster of Drusk that was hanging outside the arena and saw that there were 3 guards standing nearby. After a moment, they heard Edith shout in fear far in the distance, which caused the guards to leave their posts and go check what was happening, just like the party wanted. After a moment, the guards arrived where Edith was and saw that there was a zombie stumbling towards her, which they started to fight, not seeming to notice that Edith was controlling the zombie with magic. While that was happening, the rest of the party ran up to the poster of Drusk and quickly set up the ladder, and Gang climbed up to start painting. The plan was to repaint the poster into an image of Drusk advertising Blinsky's toys instead of the royal vine. A few people walked past, but they all just assumed that the party were contractors from the city that were supposed to be painting the poster, so they ignored it. However, Jay recognized one of the people that walked past. It was the gnome assassin who had killed the dwarf in the Red Water Inn the previous night. He saw her walk past and duck into a nearby alley. Alright everyone, I'll be back in a second, I just need to check on something quickly. Meanwhile, back at Edith, the guards had killed the zombie a lot faster than she had thought they would, so she needed to improvise a plan to keep them distracted. She got out her pet rat Hansel and held it up to the guards. "Guards, I think it hurt my pet rat. Can you help take me to the veterinarian?" "Zalzu, you deal with this." 2 of the guards left to go back to their posts, leaving the guard named Zalzu behind. Back at the poster, Gang had just put his finishing touches on the painting and heard the guards walking back. So he grabbed the paint and ran away, leaving the ladder behind. Luckily for the party, when the guards arrived, they didn't seem to notice that the poster had changed. "Hey, whose ladder is this? Did Zalzu put this here? We told him this wasn't funny the last 18 times. I'm so gonna get him written up for this." Meanwhile, Edith and Zalzu were walking towards the vet and talking about sourdough recipes when Edith heard the signal from the rest of the party that the plan had succeeded. "Actually, my rat is fine. I think he just ate a grape and turned a little bit purple." Zalzu left Edith and started to walk back to the poster to regroup with the other guards. "It probably won't do anything. We've put in reports about his ladder hijinks repeatedly, but nothing ever happens. I don't understand it. He just starts talking about sourdough bread to the officer every time we report him. Nobody cares about sourdough bread." "Hey, did you people hear that this lady tried to feed her rat sourdough bread?" Their conversation was interrupted as they heard Jay shout out for guards. They looked over and saw him staring into an alley, and watched as he got shot in the torso by a crossbow. The gnome assassin in the blue cloak ran past and tried to flee down the street, but he swung his spiked chain and sliced her in half, causing her to drop the bag of money onto the floor, with gold scattering everywhere. The guards came over to investigate, and Jay explained that he had seen her get a letter and a bag of money out from the dumpster in the alley. She had read the letter, then promptly burned it and moved to leave, which is when she saw him and attacked. "That sounds like the attack at the Red Water Inn was a lot bigger than just your average run-of-the-mill poisoned crossbow attack through a tavern window then. We'll have to keep an eye out on this. Anyway, thank you for the help. I'll check if there was a bounty out on her and we'll send the money to you in the morning." All of the commotion with the assassin meant that the guards never had a chance to notice the fact the party had changed the poster, and they went back to the Red Water Inn to celebrate their victory. That was the most intense crime I've ever committed. We've gotta keep the momentum moving up. Let's rob a bank next time. The party got some drinks, and eventually they all walked up to their rooms and went to sleep. However, that night, Edith received another dream from her patron. She saw an old, abandoned tavern resting in a small clearing in a dark forest. There was a faint dirt path leading through the woods to the tavern, but it was mostly overgrown with grass and other plants. The sign to the tavern was swaying faintly in the wind, and she could barely make out that it was called the Baranor Family Diner.